see. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Looks like we are coming through. See. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Looks like we are coming through. All right, cool. Sounds pretty good. Checking my volumes here real quick. Let's bump that up to a solid 3.0. There we go. Hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them. I publish them online. And I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition since the release of Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica back in 2017, when they presented Magic the Gathering's, one of their cornerstone settings, Ravnica, the 10 Guilds of Ravnica, as a setting for Dungeons & Dragons. I think we were all kind of wondering if they were going to explore 5-color magic in that book, and they didn't. So I got to work. One of the things that I built as a result of that was the color mana spell point system that's on DMsGuild. There's been a lot of stuff that I've built. Give me a hot second here to turn this over here real quick. There we go. And so martial powers. So just to start off, the 5-color mana system basically replaces the 8 schools of magic with the 5-color system from Magic the Gathering, and also provides a quick guide on how to convert spell and magic abilities in D&D to the 5-color magic system using a number of different aspects that are associated with the 5 colors of magic and narrative from the Magic the Gathering card game. And we devised a spell point system that's different from spell slots and from what is offered in the DMsGuild. Basically, it's a very simple 1 point equals 1 level. 9 levels, 9 points. 5 levels, 5 points. Damage types associated with each color: white, blue, black, red, green. You can see down the line here, like for example, lightning is typically associated with red. That's based on the narrative of the cards that we've seen. Necrotic damage is black. Poison is black and green. So we have a lot of guidance in the Magic the Gathering cards as to what type of damage types are associated with each color. And then these aspects help lean into the narrative flavor for what abilities, creatures, and spell-like effects and artifacts should be aligned with colors, if at all. So, like for example, you'll see a lot of parallels. Like for example, healing is both white and green. Green is associated with, like, say, spirits, while black is concerned with, like, the soul of sentient creatures. Black also has dominion over, like, say, darkness, entropy, control, while blue has, like, suppression or preventing abilities. White has protection and restraint in both abilities and effects that can be afflicted on other characters and creatures. Now, red is like aggression, earth, emotions, energy, impulse. But green is also like nature, plants, and animals. So there's a lot of interesting interaction between the different colors, elements, and aspects of Dungeons & Dragons, which when you combine them with the damage types, we get our 5-color mana spell list. Like, for example, Chill Touch. Generally, its necromantic effect is going to be black aligned. Let's drop down to Ye Old Fireball. It's a red spell that's going to be red. So, like, if I wanted to cast Fireball, I'd spend 3 mana. One has to be red. The other 2 can be whatever I want. So I can then control my mana pool. Whenever I take a short rest, I can reconfigure all the mana in my mana pool to have whatever colors that I want. Sometimes if you're playing a setting like Ravnica where each guild has 2 colors, like for example, the Boros Legion famously is white and red. So if I were to play a Boros character, I would only have white or red mana in my mana pool unless there was something unusual going on, which means that I would lean into white and red spells. And then the question is, well, what if I want a blue spell? What if I want Fly as a Boros character, but it's blue or green? Well, you would learn it as a blue or green spell, but since Boros doesn't carry blue or green mana in their mana pool, you would then learn it a second time so that you know how Fly works, and now you're coding it so that you can use white or red mana with the Fly spell. So it's a means of kind of, in 2nd edition and even in 3rd edition D&D, there were rules that restricted on what kind of spells you'd have available or how you prepared spells. 5th edition did away with that, and a lot of people philosophize that doing away with that limitation on magic is what really makes spellcasting out of control compared to, say, martial characters in 5e. So this is a means of you to, you could just go with like just generic key or mana points. like from the Dungeon Master's Guide, where you spend a point, you can cast any spell that you want, and then you're specifically narrating that a Boros character is using white and red mana. So like if I could then learn the fly spell, and it doesn't really matter if it's associated with blue or green. I'm a wizard. It's on my list. I'm going to learn it. I don't want to be restricted. So your table would have the agreement that, yeah, we're depicting the spells as for Boros, white or red. So when you cast fly, choose a way for white or red to be narrated that way. But you can just spend 3 points of mana and poof, you cast the spell. Just like you can spend a third level spell slot and poof, you cast the spell. And it doesn't matter. That's the default from Guildmaster's Guide to the Ravnica. But this added level of complexity of having a mana pool with specific colors that then you need to either make sure you have enough mana in the color that you want to cast the spells, or make sure the spells that you have can be cast in the color mana that you want. And once the 2024 Player's Handbook is released in September, we're going to have an opportunity to recalibrate the entire system up to date with what it is that they release in 2024 player options. So I'm really looking forward to that. But in the meantime, we still have a disparage because martial characters don't normally have mana pools. So over the past, what episode are we at now? Hold on. We are now at episode... I didn't list the, we're, I think on episode 337. I'll have to fix that when we go back in. But 137. So the past 130 some odd episodes, we've been building out all the martial characters to effectively be like a half caster. But they don't use spells, they're using powers, which is alternate spell-like abilities that are either like instant effects or self-aura, self-sustained effects. Hey, Goblin! Goblin's one of the playtesters that were with us on Saturday for the third level playtest. So we had, so once this book is completed, all 13 classes in Dungeons & Dragons will have the same mana system with different abilities depending on what class they are, to be able to have that same exponential growth of having options and being able to prepare powers, while still having a difference between how martials and spellcasters feel. So martial powers are very exact, concise, specific effects that you can layer in and sometimes do for free, like cantrip effects, or have mana cost effects that go along with it, versus spellcasters, which have a much more lengthy description of their spells, have a lot more utility, like DMs might let you come up with creative ways that you can use a spell to affect the game in a non-traditional means, but there's also a lot of restrictions, like of the verbal, like the components and stuff, and like material costs that go along with it that powers don't have. So there's some trade-offs between the two, but overall there's 200 different powers that we've developed over the course of the past year. 50 of which are free mana, like cantrip type effects, and the other 150 disciplines require one or more mana to be spent. I'm gonna catch up. What's up, Goblin? Honestly, insane how fast combat went, considering it's objectively more rules than base 5e. I was absolutely thrilled about that. One of the interesting components about the martial power system is that you can trade action economy for free mana. All classes have some means to cheat extra mana into their mana pool. So they can end up, like a fighter can easily end up doing, channeling as many or more powers per long rest than what, say, a sorcerer or a wizard would be able to cast first level spells. Like a third level fighter can if you're just going all day, you can easily use more like maneuvers or strike powers, or you have more options that if you're willing to cash in your action economy, like if you give up attacks, then you can use your bonus action for a free first level effect sort of thing. So you can speed up gameplay and get free mana to do more stuff by surrendering some of your action economy during a round. So you actually have the ability to speed stuff up, and we have the ability to trigger opportunity attacks during your own round. So and the way that we have forced movement is forced movement triggers opportunity attacks. So if you can punt somebody through the space that you threaten with a weapon, you can take a stab at them as they go through. So if you are self-propelling somebody, like for example, we don't have one on the team, but one example would be a Pact of the Blade. For example, could have a character that has, say, Eldritch Blast with Repelling Blast. You could punt a character 10 feet, and as they leave your area, as they leave your threatening range with your weapon, you can hit them with a Repelling Blast to push them out of your range, and then use your reaction as an opportunity attack to hit them with your weapon as they exit. And while they do that, you could trigger a strike maneuver so that you could deal extra damage and potentially propel them even further. Like say a 5th level Warlock with Repelling Blast and Thundering Strike. Thundering Strike pushes a target 10 feet per mana spent on the strike effect. So as a standard action, I can use Repelling Blast to punt your character 10 feet. When they say I'm using I'm just using a medium-sized weapon. Okay, so I punt them 10 feet. On the way out, I hit them with a Thundering Strike as an opportunity attack, using 2 mana to deal an extra 2d6 damage, and I'm going to punt them an extra 20 feet. So, standard attack, pop. I hit you for 10. On your way out, I hit you again. I then punt you another 20 feet. So I get a total of 25 feet movement for a standard attack and my reaction. And now I don't have to worry about my reactions for the rest of the round, because I use my reaction as part of my own action loop during my turn against opponents that I'm intentionally pushing away or maneuvering around. There's like downtrodding, for example, as a reaction. Anytime somebody is not prone within your weapon range, you can use an opportunity attack to attack them as a reaction. Opportunity attack, reaction, they get knocked prone. But there's a strike called tripping attack. And there's also a maneuver called flatten. So if I wanted to, I could use the flatten power. I could give up my attack as my standard action, use my bonus action to trigger flatten, which is like basically like it's like a spell-like ability that a creature within 30 feet, I can point my finger and then bam, you get knocked prone. But if you're within my weapons range, say I have a polearm, they're within 10 feet of me, I give up my attack, I get my bonus action, a free point of mana from my attack, I trigger flatten for 1 point of mana, you take d6, get knocked prone, and then since you got knocked prone, I could use downtrodding as my reaction to get an opportunity attack to hit you with a strike. And if that strike, I have Thundering Strike, I could then trigger Thundering Strike for another point of mana to then kick that target 10 feet away from me. So, but I only have 1 reaction per turn. So if I somehow had multiple opportunity attacks, which is possible with some of the options that are in here, I can only use it 1 at a time. But if I punted that character through a gauntlet of other creatures that were ready for the attacks, they could all take stabs at him as they go by. So there's a really fun pain tunnel that you can send people through if you set up your team on a grid to be able to take advantage of people's movements. So yes, as Goblin said, there's added complexity, but once you understand what your action economy loop is, what you've currently prepared for the day, how your character wants to approach combat, it gives you the opportunity to basically create your own action loops between your actions, bonus actions, and reactions and movement, to have those things work together to affect one or multiple opponents. And then if you have like NAC, Vonak was using a battle master, all he had was maneuvers. So he could give up his attack as much as he wants to then use his bonus action for a maneuver. So all he had was movement and then basically a bonus action for a free maneuver. To give action economy to somebody else to make an extra attack, or to have an ally move, or give an ally a bonus die to try to hit again. So there's a number of ways you can play support, tank, striker, and control type roles from 4th edition. Those are all present inside the 5e system. So we had our 3rd level playtest. I've got some cool feedback that I got from the team. Goblin was one of them. So I figured we'd dive into the document and look at some of the changes that we made, and there's some other changes that I've been looking at that I think are worth addressing and that we can spend a little bit of time here today doing. And I need to set a clock so that I'm staying on point with my time today, because I am at lunch. So I've got about 40 minutes left to my lunch today. So I'm going to take a sip. I'm going to grab my coffee, come back, and then we'll get to work. So just for folks that don't know, I stream 10 times a week. Monday through Friday in the morning, I do artwork for an Eberron adventure that I've been writing with Andy Headley and Stuart Braz for the DMsGuild. Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays at lunchtime, like today, I work on martial powers. So we're going through this stuff today. Tomorrow, we're going to go back and revisit the land, the tile of land that they're in, and see what needs to be further developed. And I have feedback for myself about how the creatures performed. We'll do that on Friday as well. And then in the evening, on Mondays and Thursday nights, like tonight as well, we work on Spelljammer ship art. So, and like deck plans and supplemental material to the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration book that I built. So that's probably enough ado. If you're still here, please do like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications so I can continue growing my audience and show people what it is that we're doing here. If you think it's cool, be welcome to jump in my Discord, which is also linked down below. Check out all my books that are linked down below. They all have extensive free previews. If you think any of that stuff is cool, consider making a purchase or support me on Patreon just to help make sure that I keep myself caffeinated so I can keep rolling like this. So, where are we at? Okay, so here's some of the stuff that got noted. Let's see. Shunt. The first thing we're going to look at is Shunt. First thing I'm going to do is catch up with Goblin. What's up? Conveyor belt of death. Yes. Yes, exactly. Because you could hit them, and then you could use a Thundering Strike to push them further. So you could keep pushing people down the line. If you have folks lined up, and if you can punt something to another character, to another character, to another character, you can just pinball targets around the board as long as you have reactions available. So that sounds cool until it gets used against you, because creatures can do all this stuff too. So the DM needs to pay attention to like how mean are you being, because a lot of these stuff just affect you, and then you have to recover from them. As opposed, like some things you get a saving throw and it doesn't happen, but other things just happen to you. So it's a means of being able to just like if you're looking at like people are concerned about super powerful characters being really hard to kill. But if you can kick them around and they don't get a saving throw to resist it, it happens and then they have to recover from it, you can be dealing consistent damage to even high-level characters, and they're going to have to do something about it, because once they step into that, they basically get juggled unless they took a power that allows them to halt their movement. So there's fun stuff like that can be looked at. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with Shunt. I think this is something that you're using, Goblin. Goblin has a Rakdos Barbarian Path of the Giant that it's pretty damn fun. He gets to be size large, starting at level 3, and he has to sustain it through rage, but it's still something he can do. When you lose rage, you can't. He isn't able to. He has to spend mana to make it happen. But while he's raging, it's free. So that's a cool kicker effect that makes Giant a really, really strong option for barbarians to choose, which is something we're also going to address later on. So let's see, getting through all this stuff here. Go down to Shunt, which is a maneuver. And once we actually build this book, it'll all be hyperlinked and easily referenced. We'll have an index in the back of the book. Countering attack, reactions, Shunt. Okay, here's the changes. So Shunt, first rank power. Target creature of your choice that are up to one size larger than you within 10 feet makes a strength saving throw or are pushed 10 feet per mana burned in the direction of your choice, which could technically be up. So here's the kicker effect. So this only costs 1 mana to activate, and if you do, it's only 10 feet. And so if they fail their saving throw, then you could push them up 10 feet, when then they would drop back down, potentially taking d6 of falling damage. That affects one creature. So the kicker effect. Kickers are exploits. Exploits you can like double stack, kind of like how a paladin can use in the current 2014 book. Paladin can use a smite spell and use divine smite at the same time together. As an example, you'd use your bonus action to trigger the smite spell, and whenever you hit, you can just automatically trigger divine smite. We think that's going to be changed in 2024, and that's for the better. But for now, you can double dose things like that. So you can spend 2 spell slots at the same time to double dip your smite damage. And people like that about Paladin, but it is arguably broken. So, but in that same broken sense, you can spend mana to first shunt the target, but then you can also spend additional mana as a kicker effect to for every additional point of mana that you spend, you can add an additional creature to be targeted by your shunt effect. Like at 3rd level, you can only channel 1 mana at a time per ability, but exploits are different from maneuvers. So when you channel the maneuver, you can also channel a first rank. You can also channel the exploit, so you can technically spend 2 mana on the same power in one action, because they're 2 different effects. One is actually triggering the effect, and the other is a kicker that lets you embellish or make that effect more. So you're basically like overclocking. If you want to use a Deep Rock Galactic term, you can overclock your powers. You're channeling your powers by blending exploits in with maneuvers, reactions, strikes, and sustained effects. So that's just one effect. So like as a 1st level character, or even at 1st level, you could shunt somebody, and still as a 1st level character, you could then choose to spend a 2nd point and shunt 2 targets. It's kind of like Twin Spell, right? But it's not just a meta magic thing you can do across all spells. It's conditional. Some things allow you to do kicker effects, some don't. Like for example, we have other kicker effects down here. Like regeneration, for example, is a 2nd rank power. It allows you to spend a number of... so when you channel this maneuver, it'll cost you 2 mana to do it. You can spend a number of hit dice up to your max rank to regain a number of hit points equal to the amount that you rolled. And then, if you spend 1 point as a kicker, you could then heal... you can end a disease or remove blindness, deafness, or poison. And at 1st level, your characters have access to 1st rank powers. Since you're using half casting progression, you can't channel 3rd rank powers until your 9th level. So there's a kicker effect that we have here, and it says kicker effect 3. As an exploit, you can spend 3 mana. So we spend 2 points as regeneration, and then we spend 3 points as a kicker effect. So you spend a total of 5 mana in that one action to end one of these additional falling effects. A curse and reduced ability scores, reducing anything that limits your hit point maximum, and gets rid of 1 degree of exhaustion. So you can, again, overclock. Like your character normally can't spend 5 mana on one ability, but you're technically using 2 different abilities. The regeneration power itself, which is 2 mana, and then 3 mana worth of kicker effects. So this is allowing you to be able to use the same power, but to be able to upscale it over time with different condition modifiers. So, oh god, regeneration plus cannibalized power. Yeah, it's not bad, man. It's not bad. So, I mean, regeneration. Yeah, you already get the D12. So, there's like for a barbarian, you would automatically roll D12s. Cannibalized power is something that lets you use your hit dice instead of your power die. So, like at 1st level. You're using a D6 as your power die, kind of like an inspiration die, a Battlemaster maneuver die, or like a Bardic inspiration die. I think I said that already. A Monk's martial arts die. It's all kind of that same language as a D6. But the cannibalized power allows you, it's basically a feat. It lets you, instead of, whenever you trigger a power, instead of using your power die, you can burn one of your hit dice to roll that amount of hit, that die instead of your power die. So like a barbarian at 1st level would be able to, like, if you use like a thundering strike for 1 mana, you'd be able to add D12 by burning your hit die instead of a D6 we would normally do. A paladin gets to roll 2 dice. Like when you spend 1 mana to trigger a 1st level strike as a paladin, you would then be able to add an extra die to it. If the paladin's using cannibalized power and wanted to burn their hit die, then they would basically be able to roll it'd be a D6 and a D10, because they only have 1 hit die. If they were 2nd level and they spent 1 mana, they get 2 dice. They could burn 2 hit dice. It would then be 2d10 damage on top of their normal weapon damage. But you have a very limited supply of hit dice, and the only way you can get them back is with a long rest. Now, I'm hoping in 2024 we see that hit dice is something that you can get all your hit dice back every long rest, instead of this weird hanky half your hit dice round down. That's just, or it's round up. It's just, it's obnoxious. So currently we have it, we have it coded in here, but we might not need to have any coding that says you basically get all your hit dice back whenever you finish a long rest. If they codify that in 2024, we can remove that language and free up a couple lines of space. So that's cool. Twiddly. I guess I'm reading the assume that you use your power die to heal. Ah, got it. Right on. Nope. Yep. So that's a good point, because yep, it's, even though these things are very simple, very small line items, they do pack a lot of code into each of them. So got to definitely make sure you're paying attention to what they can do. One of the other things that we ran into, for example, in the barbarian the barbarian's channel vitality is a really good case in point here. Channeling rage, empowered maneuvers, primal stamina, brutal power. Where was it? Channeling, powers, reduce, empowered maneuvers, primal stamina. There we go. When you finish a long rest, you regain all your hit dice instead of half. And while not, and here's the subtlety: while not raging, as a bonus action, you can sacrifice any number of hit dice that you have up to the max rank of power gains. Like a 3rd level barbarian has only 1st rank powers because half casting. So you could, that's up to 1 man. That's up to 1 rank. So you could spend 1 hit die, and instead of rolling that dice to get hit points, you can get a point of mana back. As a barbarian, to regain equal number of mana instead of rolling to regain hit points. So between rests, barbarians get all their mana back on a short rest. But if you need mana now, then you could, as a bonus action, sacrifice your hit dice to get that many mana back equal to the number of hit dice spent, but only while you're not raging, because focusing requires stuff out of you can't focus. You can't concentrate while you're raging. So the thought there is that you meditate for a moment, burn your dice, and then get mana back for it. So that's the narrative that goes into that. So let's see. That was Shunt. We resolved Shunt. So let's look at, rally, coordinated attack, and coordinated dash. We had some language in here that read that if you can see your target and they can see you, then you can do the thing. Rally, give them hit points, temporary hit points. Coordinated attack and coordinated dash, they could then use their reaction to either make an attack or to make movement. But we modified that so that you don't need to see your target to be able to use coordinated attack or coordinated rally. And coordinated dash. But rally, where you give people hit points, you need to see them, but they don't necessarily need to see you. And that was one of our playtesters' suggestions, to keep that text simple, more in alignment with what we saw on the Battlemaster, where we plucked these things from initially. And so those were the only 3 instances where we found that clumsiness. But it was an efficiency that we were able to build in. Pack Tactics, it's different. So let's go look at Pack Tactics, which is a maneuver. Where is it? I know you're here somewhere. Oh my god, is Pack Tactics, is that a... Oh no, that's right, we renamed it. That's why I can't find it. And I think it's 2nd ranked now. There we go. It used to be called Pack Tactics, but it's now called Allied Assault. The way that Pack Tactics normally works is you gain advantage on your next attack during this turn. Or you can give your ally that attack. Or if you're flanking somebody, you both gain advantage on that attack or whatever. So that's how Pack Tactics normally works. So we didn't want to duplicate the name because this costs 2 mana to use, so it's expensive. But what it allows you to do is, and you can channel maneuvers as either actions or bonus actions, and you can do it twice in the same turn if you wanted to. So you could use a bonus action to trigger Allied Assault, which is when you channel this maneuver to target a creature that you can see, you and other creatures gain advantage to hit that target until the beginning of the next turn. So I can spend 2 mana, and basically everyone gets advantage to attack that creature, including myself. That's really fucking good. It also costs you 2 mana, and you can't do it until 5th level. So it's pricey, but super good. It basically sets up your rogue. You can just give your rogue sneak attack damage basically whenever you want, as long as you're willing to pay for it. Hey, Shay. Super Blob here. Shay, he's also in our playtest. 2 posts above because I want to make sure you got that right. Let me check. Oh god. Regenerate plus cannibalize power. What are we talking about? Oh, so in the case of Rakdos, his exploits are black, right? So he'd have to use a black mana to use the kicker, or red to use the shunt itself. That's a really good point. It is technically an exploit, so technically that would be true, but it's not what I intended. What I intended was kickers are like non-effects. I guess kickers are technically like they're considered an exploit for language, but I think it would be okay for us to allow a kicker to use any color that you have, as like kind of like how a monk can use any color mana, even though the monk has exploits built into its kit. And if you're like say Simic using blue and green, if you want to use flurry of attacks, you don't have to distinguish whether it's blue or green. It's just a class ability, so you can use abilities can use either. So I think it'd be appropriate, and that's a really good point though, that we need to spell that out. So kicker effects. Let's go up to the document where it spells out kicker effects. This is why we do this stuff, man. This is why we do this stuff. So let's go down to the power list. Thanks a lot, Goblin. But you could. So in this case, you could use any color mana. So we will specify that because we have a section on kicker effects. Kicker costs. Some powers describe specific effects gained when spending additional mana, such as giant growth. Kicker costs replace the base cost. Kicker costs. No, they don't replace the base cost. Kickers are added costs that modify the effects of the power as detailed in the description. Kicker costs are considered exploits, but can use any mana that cannot be reduced unless a power, feature, or ability specifies that you can, comma, and if using magic paradigms, you can use any, and if using magic paradigms, you can spend mana of any type to do so. There. I think that should work. Actually, that did make me think, would an Orzhov 4 elements monk just basically shed out of luck and only get half as many powers because they have to invest double? You're talking specifically about the spells that they would gain from the list. That is a really good question. Yeah, they would basically be SOL. What they would do is they'd have to learn things twice. So like if you wanted to pick up for example, if you wanted to pick up Fly. Fly is typically a blue mana ability. If Orzhov, which uses white and black, were to pick up Fly, they would have to learn it twice. Actually, debatably, because the spell list of powers, of the spells that the monk get are technically the bonus spell list. And the rules basically allows bonus spells to be used with any color mana. So technically you could cheat around it by using that bonus magic system. Normally, if it was a specific spell that they were learning, they'd have to use white or black or learn it again or use a different color to access it. But the normal rule of spell casting is if it's on your bonus spell list, you can use any color magic that you know because it's your bonus spell. You always have the ability to use it. It's always available to you. So technically, a 4 elements monk, the spells that they learn from their elements list the way that it's currently worded in this document is that you get 2 spells for free whenever off of your spell list. But if you were to acquire additional powers, that's getting complicated. If you were to pick up more, like at 3rd level, you get 2 for free. Technically, using the general rules of bonus spells, a resolved character would be able to use white or black magic, whichever one you want. But if they then use their list of prepared powers to pick up a 3rd, then they would have to either have access to blue, red, or green mana, or in the case of Orzhov, they would then have to learn it twice, because none of the spells on the 4 elements list have white or black mana native to it. But you could also spend time and money to research any power or spell to be a specific color. So in an ongoing campaign, if you had an Orzhov character that wanted it to be a way of the 4 elements, you could budget in however many spells that they're going to start off with. They could spend starting money to have researched those spells so that they're available in white or black, whichever one they please. That's a little complicated. So I think we need to streamline that a little bit. I think that is worth exploring and discussing, because it's too many caveats, it gets clumsy. Let's simplify mana decisions for Ellie and other casters. There, we'll just do that for now. That's an easy way to go. Let's see, simplified. Oh yeah, we simplified the sideboard. We changed pack tactics, so let's go look at our sideboard. What is a sideboard? The rules that we used for it initially were really, really clunky, but we made it a lot easier to understand. So you get to prepare a bunch of spells. And so, preparing powers. There you go. Barbarians, fighters, monks, paladins, rangers, rogues can swap all powers when you gain a level. Whenever you finish a long rest. And then sideboard. While preparing powers after finishing a long rest, you can select an additional number of powers equal to your max rank that can be readied for use. So a 1st level character can prepare. Let's go back up to the top. There we go. So a 1st level character has access to 2 prepared powers, and you have a max rank of 1. So, using the rule of sideboards, while preparing powers after finishing a long rest, you can select an additional number of powers equal to your max rank. So at 1st level, you can prepare 2, and your max rank is 1, so you can ready an additional 3rd power. Any number of readied powers can be swapped with an equal number of prepared powers when you finish a short rest. The prepared powers become readied, and the readied powers become prepared. So you're basically swapping them. So at 1st level, I'd have 2 prepared powers and 1 sideboard power that's readied. When I finish a short rest, I could take this one, swap it out for the readied power. So now these are the 2 powers that are prepared, and this one's on the sideboard. And then when I finish another short rest, these are 2 prepared powers. I could swap this out so that this power is now readied and this one is prepared. So these become my 2 prepared powers. At 5th level, I have 2nd rank. I have access to 2nd rank. So I would be able to have 2 powers on the sideboard. And a 5th level character has 6 powers. So I'd be able to prepare 6 powers and then have 2 powers on the sideboard. When I finish a side rest, I could take any 2 prepared powers and ready them, and then take the 2 ready powers and make them prepared. So I can swap on a short rest what I have prepared out of my overall set. This can also be done with spellcasting for rangers and paladins. But artificers and warlocks do not get sideboards to swap like this. They already have access. They can already, in some instances, mix powers and spells together. So I'm not allowing them that versatility. They're spellcasters first, while paladins and rangers are marshals first. with a power kit that you spend mana on. Artificers and Warlocks are casters first that have a little bit of power available to them as well. But that's the revision that we made to sideboards. And then we have revisions, because of that, we have revisions to the Battle Master. So here's the stuff that we give the Battle Master now. And I'm going to catch up with you guys in a second. Give me a second. Battle Master, here we go. Let's see, text. To be honest, I kind of like the weird casting cost stuff, but it is probably better if it's simpler. Yeah, it's people that are really deep into Magic the Gathering kind of geek out on that action economy or like resource management. It's extra dials that get twisted and levers get pulled. But a casual player would probably be like, whatever. It's just key. I'm just gonna call it key. I don't care about color or elements or stuff like that. I just have a pool of mana I can spend on whatever I want. Go away. So, and that's fine. If you don't want that added layer of complexity by having different mana pools, either color or elements, then you don't have to. But it is a lever that's there to pull if people want that deeper level of immersion. So let's see here. So here's the thing. Okay, so a Battle Master, right? They get a number. All subclasses gain 10 bonus powers. This would be 3rd level Battle Master, 5th level Battle Master, 9th level Battle Master, 13th level Battle Master, and 17th level Battle Master. At the same, that's when you gain additional ranks of power as a single class. So these are all the different powers that you get out of it. Sometimes you get feats. It just depends on what it is. And then you get the actual features. So NAC is playing our Battle Master, and we were having a conversation about how almost everything the Battle Master does is subsumed by all the other classes. So the Battle Master's identity is disintegrated because basically everyone has access to maneuvers. So what do we do to augment and improve the Battle Master to make them shine above and beyond this system? Kind of like with the Paladin, all classes get strike or smite powers, basically. So where does that put the Paladin? Well, the Paladin, whenever you use a smite power, you get an extra die for free. That's your divine smite ability. Instead of, like, we know that they're going to get rid of stacking bonus spells and divine smite. We know they're going to get rid of that. So what we're doing to help glam up the Paladin is, like, any character can spin up to 5 mana to roll 5 extra dice of damage when they use a strike power if they spend 5 mana. But when the Paladin does it, they get 6 dice instead of 5. So no matter what, the Paladin is always going to be a little bit stronger than anyone else at the same level because they have access to extra stuff for free. So the Battle Master gets to shine differently. First off, combat superiority. When you take this archetype, instead of using a D6, you use a D8. And at 9th level, instead of a D8, you use a D10. And at 17th level, instead of a D10, you use a D12. So here's your power dice. Normally D6, D8, D10. But the Battle Master, the Master of Battles, uses a larger superiority die, which helps demonstrate their combat superiority. And then the new power that we picked up is Ready for Anything. So we just described the sideboard. So the new power that they have is when you use the second wind feature, and again, you can use that once per short rest. When you do, you get a number of hit points back. It's like your hit die plus level. I think it's your level of fighter. So when you use the second wind feature, you can also replace a number of powers you have prepared equal to the max channel limit with an equal number of powers you have readied on your sideboard. So the Battle Master can use a bonus action to give themselves hit points back and swap their sideboard with prepared maneuvers. Basically, anytime they have access to it as a bonus action mid-combat, which is really fucking sick. Hey Nitro, it's good to see you. I'm just going over playtest revisions that we got from you and everyone else on the team. So that's the 3rd level ability. We also made some additional changes. Thanks NAC for building a chart for the Know Your Enemies. These are the things that, okay, so normally know Your Enemy is an ability that exists for the Battle Master, which is basically you spend a minute observing or interacting with another creature outside of combat in which you can gain insight into its capabilities and combat prowess. You learn 2 of the following pieces of information about your target. You can also learn more by burning 1 mana for each additional piece of information. So here's the expanded list of stuff that we give. Ability bonus, saving throw bonus, if they can channel, if they can cast spells or channel power, and what their maximum level or rank is. If they have any kind of special movement types, and what one of them is. Its armor class, its current hit points, and if it has any resistances, immunities, or weaknesses, and what one of them is. So you can know 2 automatically after a minute, and if you want to burn mana, then you can learn additional abilities. And of course, you can, like a 7th level, you're gonna have 2nd rank, so you can burn 2 mana to learn up to 4 things if you want to spend the mana to do so. In addition, while in combat as an exploit, you can burn 1 mana or to learn 1 piece of information per round. So during your turn, it's an exploit, so it doesn't actually cost any action economy, but it has to be during your turn. So when it's your turn, you can spend a point of mana. It would be your exploit mana. And so you'd spend a point of mana, and then bam, you know something about them while you're fighting them. So it doesn't cost any action economy. It just costs mana. Let's see. And then Perfect Mastery. Combat Masteries. Okay, so Combat Masteries no longer allow a saving throw, and the Step Mastery now moves 10 feet instead of 5. So we have a number of free maneuvers, or free disciplines, basically. They're like cantrips. The big brain maneuver from Wizards of the Coast is to tie different weapon effects. They call them weapon masteries. Like if you're using a warhammer, if you hit somebody, you could push them 5 feet, for instance. Well, what we did was we have combat masteries, which is basically cantrips that you learn. It doesn't matter what kind of weapon you're using. If you know a combat mastery, you can always apply it to an attack. But it replaces the ability to use a strike. Strikes deal extra damage and have an effect. These are like cantrips that don't deal extra damage, but when you hit with your weapon, you can apply any one of these effects that you know. And of course, they're prepared, so you can swap them out whenever you want. If they actually do pull the trigger on weapon masteries and say you have the push ability from a warhammer, if you're using a warhammer a lot, then you don't have to worry about gaining push. It's just something that your weapon can do. So you don't have to worry about it. And we'll address that in the document. We'll list out the weapons. Here's all the combat masteries that you automatically gain from that weapon. Refer to the combat mastery list. So we can see here that step is you can shift your position 5 feet without provoking an opportunity attack after a successful hit. But now the battle master can move 10 feet instead of 5. It's free movement. Whenever you hit, you can shift 10 feet. It doesn't cause attacks of opportunity. But almost everything else does. Push 5 feet, strength. No longer requires a strength check. Grapple is, you can target, this one actually doesn't have any modifications, but whenever you hit with a weapon, if you have the grapple mastery, then after you hit, you're automatically, the target is grappled, in addition to taking damage. Disarm is a strength save. Addle is a con save. Straggle is a con save. Trip is a dex save. Vex is an int save. But the Battle Master at 10th level, you no longer get saving throws. So if you have Vex, you would the target is automatically at disadvantage on their next attack roll. There you go. Very simple. And these trigger every time you hit. They're not limited to once per round. It's every time you hit. If you don't want to use mana to trigger a strike effect, if you have a combat mastery, it's infinite use, as often including during opportunity attacks. So there's a lot of sequencing you can do this way. Create neat action loops, like that push movement we were talking about earlier. What else? Superior maneuvers. Okay, so we already know that at 1st, 9th, and 17th level, we get a larger die. So we started swapping out some of the powers. So now we have Perfect Mastery, which is combat masteries. We already know no longer requires saving throw. Superior maneuvers. Okay, so there's an ability that when you make the attack action, if you give up an attack, you can then use a maneuver for free. You basically get a free point of mana to spend on a maneuver as a bonus action. So you give up attacks, you can use a maneuver. A maneuver requires either a full action, so like you don't make any attacks, you just get the standard action, or a bonus action. You can do them both. Superior maneuvers now allows us to swap attacks for maneuvers. So at 15th level, at 15th level, you'll have 3 attacks and a bonus action, which means that you could trigger up to 4 maneuvers per round. And you could sacrifice 2 of your attacks out of the 3 to get 1 point of mana for free for 1 maneuver as an attack, and another point for free for another maneuver as a bonus action. Or you could just spend 4 points of mana to do a first rank maneuver across all 4, but have 4 of them per round. So there's a lot of action economy that you can gain and a lot of ways you can influence the board. And then Unparalleled Power is the final upgrade. Whenever you roll any power dice, you replace any results of 1 to 5 with 6. And keeping in mind at 17th level, your power die becomes a D12. So basically this means that if you don't get a 6 or better on your D12, it's automatically going to be a 6. Always. So that gives them unparalleled power. So that's how the Battle Master shakes out, which is a serious glam up for them. Much better than what we had previously. I won't bore you with the details, but that's definitely a glam up for these dudes. So let's kick through these here real quick. And then we had changes to Barbarian, Path of the Beast, and Path of the Totem. They originally had Lycanthropy, but Goblin had pointed out that there's the Lycanthropy. So hold on, let's go take a look at it real quick. The Lycanthropy is a sustained effect. It basically allows you to change form like a werewolf or a were-tiger or shark or whatever it is that you want to wear into. But what the ability is, I'll point out, it's a first rank power, so you can have it at first level. So you can go Guru immediately if you want. So Lycanthropy, while sustaining this power, you can shift form into a lycanthrope creature. Your appearance changes to adopt features of a creature of your choice, such as fur and scales, beak, claw, fangs, tail, etc., and gain the following abilities. Heightened senses. So you gain advantage on wisdom, both perception and investigation checks. That's pretty useful. And then there's Feral Might, which is gain advantage on strength checks, which is redundant with rage. And then Natural Weapons, which is gain unarmed attacks that deal 1 power die plus either your strength or dexterity modifier, which could be either slashing or piercing damage. That is very redundant with the Path of the Beast. So we made changes. So let's go look at Path of the Beast. So here's what Form of the Beast normally gets. When you enter a rage, you can transform, revealing, basically you get Lycanthropy. Until the rage ends, you automatically, what we allow you to do is automatically sustain Lycanthropy at no cost. And you can manifest a natural weapon. So the way that normally works is when you enter a rage, you can transform, revealing bestial power. You gain a natural weapon, which can be a bite, claw, or tail. The tail attack increases your armor class, kind of like a shield spell. Claw deals slashing damage, and you can make the slashing attack as a bonus action, and bite becomes a piercing attack. And when you bite with it, you can regain a number of hit points equal to the result of the power die that you roll. So provided that you have at least, assuming that you have half of your hit points or less. So that's the basic Form of the Beast. That's kind of how it works in general already. So what we did is we bumped up by giving you that Lycanthropy ability. At first, so the feature is that when you, which is you can sustain Lycanthropy power at no cost. Period. It's always on if you want it to be on. It doesn't require concentration. It has no mana cost, and it doesn't account against the total number of powers that you can sustain at a single time. So you basically, if you take Path of the Beast, you just get Lycanthropy, which is like a light rage ability that you have access to. And then when you use Rage, Form of the Beast, you get the stacking weapon damage, like the kicker effect for the weapon effect. And again, Lycanthropy, it could be on already if you want, but if it wasn't, it could automatically trigger. So you wolf out whenever you rage automatically as an action. And then on top of that, the Totem. Path of the Totem. Totem Warrior, there you go. And Totem Warrior, we just got rid of it, and we replaced it with the Alert Feat and Dire Impact, and then Blind Sense and Savage Attacker. So we just got rid of Lycanthropy because there is a lot of overlap between what Rage can do and what Totem Warrior stuff can do already. That makes Lycanthropy kind of irrelevant, so we just took it off of the list. If you want it for flavor, cool, go ahead and do that. But your totem character kind of already takes on the form of a wolf if you're a wolf totem or whatever. So thanks for pointing that out, Goblin. There was enough redundancies that we were instead able to pack in extra feats. So that made a lot of sense there. And yeah, and then we gained the Lycanthropy. So there's that. How are we doing here? How are we doing on time? 55. Okay, so I have a few minutes left. So what else do we need to do? I want to look again at the Berserker. I want to look again at the Banneret. And I think overall from the playtest, we had 3 combats. One was 1 round, another was 2 rounds, and another was 6 rounds. And I think my mistake as a DM when I was doing this was I didn't have enough diversity in the type of things that the creatures could do. It's okay that really low-level creatures don't have a lot of powers that they can use, because that's fair that they don't. But I want to have an arrangement of different types of kits. Like, I shouldn't have, like, these were all brutes, basically. The team was fighting a bunch of brutes. They had grappling effects. They grab you, they hold on to you, and they can just deal damage to you as a bonus attack. That seems okay. It's really simple. It was very fast for me to be able to go through each of their, like, I could go through 5 creatures, like, basically in a minute. It took no time for me to go through that. Because once they got their mitts on you, it was just basically, they're already grappling you, so I can make an attack, and I can use a bonus attack to do extra damage, and then they're done. Done, 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 done. Who's next? And that was really easy to do. But it was also not a very imaginative fight. So I think in future, when I want to make sure I break up the action economy, or the roles. So I have tanks and strikers. There's tanks, strikers, controllers, artillery, and then there's like solo bosses. So setting solo bosses aside, there's those 4 main roles that creatures can play using the 4E game design mentality. So we can duplicate those effects using the powers by selecting different powers or things to have. So for me as a DM, what I want to do, and what I'll add in as notes into the document, is to keep things interesting, think about what role the creature is playing, and then build towards those strengths. I had a bunch of brutes, but that was it. It would have been a much better fight if I had, like, for instance, 3 brutes and 2 controllers, or like 3 brutes, a striker, and an artillery. They had javelins. I didn't really make use of them. So I could have mixed it up, having 2 or 3 different roles, so that the team was going to have to, because basically once you got within, walking distance, like within melee distance, there wasn't any real reason to move. And all of them had grappling effects that dealt damage. So they didn't want to move. They just wanted to grapple and hold on to you. But that could have been a lot more imaginative by having a wider variety of options. So that's a lesson me as a DM can learn and improve the game and make it more interesting for the rest of the team for when we have our next playtest on Saturday. So we catch up on the notes. Don't feel restricted by what monsters you use. I don't mind if monsters evolve narrative dissonance. Throw whatever you want at me. Excellent. Frou can take. Yeah, Frou can take it. Frou the Paladin's a badass monster. That guy's tough as shit. But Minotaur having natural weapons, being able to use all the powers with your natural weapons, felt so natural. I mean, natural weapons, duh. But it felt really, really good to be able to lean into, like, taking a race that had natural weapons as part of their budget and being able to lean into that with the martial power system, just to be able to utilize that stuff as much as you wanted. I legitimately thought that was like a solid win for us. The forced movement triggering reactions for your allies and yourself. I was talking about that at the top of the hour. If anyone wants to go back and check that out, just to hear me ramble through that. But being able to choose to spend your reaction during your own turn honestly speeds up combat, because if you're building an action loop that lets you resolve all of your action economy for the round, then you're just off the table. That's fast. And if you're punting things through, everyone can line up and make use of their reactions as well. So you're just reducing, like Goblin had said, even though it was a fairly complicated combat, it went pretty quickly for 5e combat in general. And this was with all y'all doing this stuff for the first time. So it only took a couple rounds of combat, I think, for you guys to kind of get the groove of it. And from there, it was just, what cool shit can we do? And when you guys have the opportunity to take your first long rest, I'd encourage you guys to take out the stuff that you didn't find very useful and replace those things with new prepared powers, so you can see if there's different types of action economy loops that you can create for your characters. And since you guys are getting into interrogation and stuff, you're going to have more opportunities to do things that are more than just combat. So there'll be opportunities there as well. But what's up? Just to see if everything fits together. What to do? I know it's just a huge blob of words, but I did give you commenting power on the... Oh, yeah. Shay's been doing great consolidating all the monk information. to get rid of any kind of redundancies to make it an easier flow. And yeah, I need to dedicate some time looking at that. I just got to get it on my calendar to make it happen. So give me some time and I'll get to it. And I appreciate the effort. Thank you. Yeah. All right, so that's it for now. I gotta go. I've got just as a DM, a whole bunch of ideas percolated just from the random stuff. This is what I love about DMing with no plot line. Like the real strength of hex crawls or just like point crawls or just randomized systems is that I can have a very loose idea about, like, all I really need to know are who are the factions in the region that you need to deal with, what are the rough capabilities, what are the rough pain points and points of interest, what are they motivated for, what do they want to achieve, what are they afraid of, what kind of rivalry or alliances do you have between different factions that are in the region. And that's basically all you need to know as a DM if you've trained yourself to be good at improvisation, which takes time. But once you get to the point where you're comfortable improvising, hex crawling is so easy as a DM because I only have a loose idea of what's in the area, what threats are there, what are smart and what aren't intelligent, what are like I just said, what are their interests, what are their fears, what are their goals trying to achieve, and what do I know exists that would prevent them from achieving them, and that creates the tension in the region that the team walks into. And then as the team interacts with it, the dice do what the dice do, paired with the narrative that people play. Like for example, Vonak, the Battle Master. He's an Azet Battle Master, so he has a trident with an Azet flag on it, and he rolled incredibly well on an intimidation check using his banner to show them, this is a force of arms, back down or we'll kill you. And the roll was really high, and the way that we just narrated it was that the Azet flag caught the wind and popped out, and it was just spontaneously decided, well, they're afraid of the Azet flag. So something in these creatures' history, they had bad mojo with Azet, like strong enough that they remember it and they're afraid of the Azet symbol. That creates a whole new dynamic about Azet in the region for these creatures that we'll be able to lean into over and over again narratively moving forward. It wasn't there previously, but every time weird things like that crop up, it adds just a little bit more language and flavor that didn't exist when I wrote this, but I have all that open space between plot points that can get filled in with just the random shit that players do. It's the narrative that they fill in with the die rolling that creates the adventure, because I don't have a specific rail that they're rolling down. They're just adding their own flavor and their own decisions to what they want to do. And since I have so much open space in the narrative, then I can just lean into and grab whatever caught their attention, or like whatever great die rolls or horrible die rolls happened, sets up a new dynamic of how the world is evolving around them. And that's what you call emergent gameplay, and that the story emerges from the die rolls and how you respond and what decisions you make in the moment during the adventure. So I can start off with a very loose frame, some rough maps, some idea of power, the different goodies that are in the area for the team to find, and just let you guys run amok and not care about where you go, because I have random encounter tables. So whenever you wander off in a direction, I know I can hit you with these random encounters. And as you go through those, that's going to create, if you keep getting crocodiles over and over again, there's some sort of problem with crocodiles with you. So maybe we start having creatures that show up later on, like boss fights and stuff, have crocodile energy. Like they've been sending crocodile minions after you the whole time. That wasn't true until you guys rolled crocodile combat 3 times over the past 2 sessions. Obviously there's a problem with crocodiles with you. So now that becomes a shtick, becomes a thing. But that's emergent gameplay. So my hour is over. I gotta bail. We're gonna be back tomorrow. We're gonna be back tomorrow at lunchtime to work on this stuff some more. We're going to dive in and play with the Berserker and the Banneret some more, and also look again at the Mastermind. We're going to make sure we have all the language fleshed out for movement interaction involving grappling and stopping and redirecting movement when somebody's already being forced through movement. And we should spend some time simplifying that mana language we were talking about earlier with Orzhov versus 4-element monk, for example. So we'll be able to do that, and then I'll have that'll probably eat up Tuesday, but I also didn't have Friday for me to, because I spent like 3 sessions building out the base components of the current tile that the team is in. I could see you guys spending another, maybe like another 1 to 3 sessions in this tile if you really wanted to dive into what's going on here. Or you might be able to clean it up enough to be done in like another 2 sessions and then move on to the next tile, which would be totally fine. I really don't care. It's just you can't advance to the next tile until this one's resolved, because then you're leaving your NPCs behind to die. So you always have to bring them along with you when you move into a new tile. So once this tile is conquered, which means you're going to have to interact with the different factions that are in the tile before you can resolve anything in there to create a safe space for you to move through, either through intimidation, negotiation, or deception, or just force of arms, to be able to create a space that your characters could be safe inside of to take a long rest. Otherwise, you're going to have to retreat back to the other tile to take your long rest, and then come back into the tile to try to secure it for safety. So that's the idea. So we're doing 3rd level for another 3 sessions, and then we'll reevaluate if we're going to stay on Saturdays, or if there's enough interest that more people now want to be available on Monday or Thursday. We'll have the opportunity to switch days, and then we'll upgrade to 5th level instead of 3rd. So we'll play 5th level for a month, and then we'll move into 7th level for a month, and then we'll move into 9th level for a month. And then we'll probably, at that point, I tested the thing with my home table from level 15 to 20, and I like how the high end feels already. So I think between now and through 9th level, we're going to see a lot, any weirdness, I think we're going to be able to iron out. I think we should be able to see enough weirdness come through. That should be a fun little fuck around campaign for people just to kick mana. So anyway, that's it for now, guys. I'm going to be back tonight. Barely through the countryside. I'm going to be back tonight. We're going to continue working on Vocast Battle Crab. It's a 500-foot Spelljammer vessel, the size of its own fleet. So I've been building that out on Mondays and Thursday nights, including tonight. So I'll be back in about 4.5, 5-ish hours, something like that. So yeah, it's 3 o'clock here in Seattle. I'm normally up and running somewhere like around 7:30ish. So probably in about 4.5 hours or so. So I'll see you guys later on. And I'll be back tomorrow morning to do more Eberron tokens. So whenever I get to see you guys, looking forward to it. Thanks a lot.